"We're pregnant," my sister announced, grabbing my fiancé's hand at my graduation party. "And we're getting engaged." The sound of my mother's wine glass shattering on the patio stones seemed to echo forever. 43 people stared at me in stunned silence, waiting to see how I'd react to having my life destroyed in front of everyone I loved. But what happened next shocked everyone. Before I dive in, I'm curious. What time is it where you're watching this? Drop a comment and let me know. I love seeing whether you're watching during your morning coffee, lunch break, or late-night scrolling session. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We've got incredible stories coming your way every single day. My name is Julia Chambers, and this is the story of how my graduation party turned into the most brutal public reckoning of my life. But to understand how it all went so wrong, I need to take you back to the beginning. Growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was the responsible one, the achiever. While my younger sister Loretta was getting into trouble and partying, I was studying for the SATs while she was dropping out of college after one semester. I was grinding through my bachelor's degree, then my master's program. I was 24, had just spent 2 years drowning in coursework, pulling all-nighters at the library, and working part-time at a women's shelter to gain counseling experience. I was exhausted, but I was proud. I was going to be the first person in my family with a graduate degree. That meant something to me, maybe everything. Loretta, on the other hand, was 21 and had perfected the art of being everyone's favorite disaster. Charming when she wanted to be, manipulative when she needed to be, and always finding a way to make her problems someone else's responsibility. After dropping out of college, she'd bounced around Charlotte for a while before moving to Detroit in early 2023, claiming she wanted to start fresh. Our parents had bylaid her out of everything from credit card debt to a DUI. She had this talent for spinning every failure into someone else's fault, and somehow people bought it. But Loretta wasn't my biggest problem. That would be Zach. Zach Frey and I met during undergrad at Michigan. He was studying mechanical engineering, one of those quiet, steady guys who seemed to have his life figured out. We'd been together for 4 years by 2023, and honestly, he felt like home. He was supportive of my ambitions, proud when I got accepted into the master's program, and he proposed in October of 2022 with a simple ring that meant the world to me. We set the wedding date for October 2024. Far enough away to finish school and get my career started, close enough to feel real. I thought we were building something solid together. But sometime around February 2023, things started feeling wrong. It was small things at first. Zach working late more often, taking phone calls in another room, coming home smelling different, not like perfume exactly, but just different. There were charges on our shared credit card for restaurants I'd never been to, bars I'd never heard of. When I'd ask about them, he always had reasonable explanations. Work dinners, networking events. His tone was so casual, so normal, that I felt crazy for even questioning it. But that feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. You know the one, that sick, twisting sensation that tells you something is very, very wrong, even when your brain is trying to rationalize it away. By April, I was losing sleep over it. I'd lie awake at night, listening to him breathe beside me, wondering if I was losing my mind. Was I just stressed about graduation, about starting my career? Or was my gut trying to tell me something I didn't want to hear? 2 weeks before graduation, I broke. I remember sitting in my car outside the library after a particularly brutal study session, staring at my phone. My thumb hovered over the Google search bar, and I typed in Private Investigator Ann Arbor, Michigan. I felt sick doing it. Like I was betraying him, like I was the crazy girlfriend who couldn't trust her own fiancé. But I had to know. I had to either confirm my suspicions or put them to rest, because the not knowing was killing me. The pie I hired was a middle-aged woman named Hannah. She was professional, compassionate, and promised results within a week. I paid her retainer with shaking hands and immediately wanted to take it back. What kind of person investigates the man they're supposed to marry? I tried to focus on graduation prep, on my final papers, on planning the party my parents insisted on throwing. But every day felt like walking through quicksand, waiting for that phone call. It came on June 2nd, 2 days before graduation. Hannah's voice was gentle but direct. "Julia, I have the report ready. Are you somewhere private where we can talk?" I was in my apartment alone. Zach was at another work thing. "I'm going to be straight with you," Hannah said. "There are multiple women, at least 3 that I could confirm in the past 6 months alone. Hotels, restaurants, her apartment when you're in class. I have photos, receipts, documented meetings. I'm sorry." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Even though I'd suspected, even though I'd hired her specifically to find this out, hearing it confirmed felt like being hit by a truck. "There's more," Hannah continued quietly. "One of the women appears to be pregnant, about 6 months along, based on social media posts and medical appointments I was able to track." I hung up and threw up in my kitchen sink. The manila envelope arrived the next day. I could barely bring myself to open it, but I glimpsed enough to see hotel receipts, photos of Zach with women I'd never seen before, screenshots of text messages that made my skin crawl. Then I shoved it all back in and tried to pretend it didn't exist. Graduation day arrived gray and drizzly, which felt appropriate. I walked across that stage in my cap and gown, shook hands with the dean, and smiled for photos while feeling completely hollow inside. My parents were beaming in the audience. Zach was there too, applauding and looking so proud, so normal that I wondered if I was living in some alternate reality. The party was that evening at Nichols Arboretum, this beautiful garden venue in Ann Arbor that I'd booked months earlier. Fairy lights strung between the trees, round tables with white linens, a small acoustic trio playing jazz standards. It was exactly what I'd dreamed of: intimate, elegant, meaningful. My whole family had flown in from Charlotte. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends I'd known since childhood. Even my elderly grandmother had made the trip. These were people who had watched me grow up, who had cheered for me through every milestone, who were genuinely proud of what I'd accomplished. I gave a little speech as the sun was setting, thanking everyone for their support, talking about how meaningful it was to have them all there. My dad presented me with a pair of antique pearl earrings that had belonged to my great-grandmother, something I could wear on my wedding day. For a moment, standing there surrounded by people who loved me, I felt that familiar warmth of belonging. Maybe I could get through this. Maybe I could figure out what to do about Zach tomorrow, after everyone went home. Maybe I could salvage something from the wreckage of my relationship and still have this perfect moment with my family. That's when Loretta stood up. She was wearing this flowing yellow sundress, her blonde hair perfectly curled, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Loretta has always been beautiful in that effortless way that makes other women feel inadequate. She tapped her fork against her wine glass, and the garden fell quiet. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice carrying that sweet, innocent tone she used when she was about to drop a bomb. My stomach immediately clenched. Loretta had never been good at letting others have the spotlight, but surely she wouldn't. "I didn't want to steal Julia's thunder," she continued, looking directly at me with what I swear was a smirk, "but I just can't hold it in anymore." She reached over and took Zach's hand. He didn't pull away. "We're pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. All around me, I heard gasps, confused murmurs, the sound of my mother's wine glass hitting the ground and shattering on the patio stones. But all I could focus on was Loretta's face, radiant, triumphant, like she'd just won some contest I didn't know we were competing in. And Zach, my fiancé, just standing there like a statue, not denying it, not looking shocked or confused. Just accepting it. "And," Loretta added, her voice rising with excitement, "we're getting engaged." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat, the distant sound of traffic on Huron River Drive, someone's uncomfortable cough. My knees went weak, and I gripped the back of a chair to keep from collapsing. I felt like I might throw up right there in front of everyone. The humiliation was crushing. This was my graduation party, my moment, and they had just destroyed it all in the most public way possible. My mother was the first to move. She rushed over to me, her face pale with shock and concern. "Julia, honey," she started, but I could barely hear her over the ringing in my ears. My father was right behind her, his jaw clenched with barely contained rage. I could see him struggling between wanting to comfort me and wanting to throttle Zach. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. Other family members started murmuring, confused voices overlapping. "I don't understand. How could they? At her graduation party." I was drowning in their pity, in their shock, in the weight of my own humiliation. This was my family, my life, and they had just destroyed it all in front of everyone I loved most. But then, through the fog of humiliation and heartbreak, I remembered the manila envelope in my purse. I'd been too afraid to look at the full contents, too scared of what I might find. But now, standing there watching my sister announce her pregnancy with my fiancé, I realized I had something they didn't know about. The truth. My hands were shaking as I walked to the gift table where I'd left my purse. Every step felt surreal, like I was moving through water. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, the weight of their pity and confusion. Continuous whisper among themselves, trying to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. I pulled out the envelope, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely open it. "Well," I said, my voice carrying across the silent garden, "that is quite the surprise." Loretta's smile faltered slightly. "But since we're making announcements," I continued, louder now, "I guess it's time to share what I learned this week." I opened the envelope fully for the first time, letting the contents spill across the table. Photos, receipts, printed text messages, a detailed investigator's report. The evidence of months of betrayal laid out in stark black and white. "Zach," I said, looking directly at him, "you weren't just cheating with Loretta." He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "According to this investigation," I held up the report, "there were 3 other women in the past 6 months alone, maybe more." The gasps were audible now. My father stepped forward, his face dark with anger. My mother was crying. "And Loretta," I turned to my sister, who had gone completely white, "one of those women is already 6 months pregnant. So congratulations, you're not even his only baby mama." The photos scattered across the table told the whole story. Zach with a brunette at a downtown hotel. Zach with a redhead at a restaurant I'd never been to. "I have hotel receipts," I said, my voice getting stronger, fueled by rage and adrenaline. "Credit card statements. Photographic evidence of you with other women while I was in class studying for the degree I just earned. You want to destroy my graduation party? Fine. But everyone here gets to know exactly who you really are." Loretta tried to speak, but I cut her off. "Did you know about the others, Em? Or did you think you were special? Did he tell you he loved you? That he was going to leave me for you? Because according to this surveillance report, it looks like he's been saying the same lies to multiple women." Zach finally found his voice. "Julia, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months. That you proposed to me while you were sleeping with my sister and God knows who else. That you made me feel crazy for trusting my instincts." I dropped the envelope on the ground, letting the photos scatter in the evening breeze. Some of them blew toward other tables, where family members picked them up with horrified expressions. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, tears finally starting to flow. "I was going to marry you. I was going to build a life with you. I defended you to myself every single day, made excuses for your behavior, convinced myself I was being paranoid." I looked around at my family, at the faces of people who had come to celebrate with me and instead got front row seats to my humiliation. "I'm sorry everyone had to see this," I said. "This was supposed to be a happy day, but I guess it's better that you all know the truth." I took off my engagement ring and threw it at Zach's feet. Then I walked out of that garden with as much dignity as I could muster, leaving behind the wreckage of my old life. The aftermath was swift and brutal. My parents, after the initial shock wore off, were furious with Loretta. They'd suspected she was irresponsible, but this level of betrayal was something else entirely. They cut off all financial support. She couldn't move in with Zach as planned. Turns out, he didn't even have a stable place to live. His job had let him go after HR got wind of his relationships with multiple coworkers. Loretta ended up moving back to Charlotte, sharing a cramped apartment with a high school friend, working at a chain restaurant to make ends meet while pregnant and alone. Zach never proposed to her, never offered to support her, basically disappeared when things got real. As for me, I took a job offer at a trauma recovery clinic in Portland, Oregon. 3,000 miles between me and Charlotte felt about right. I started therapy myself because even when you expose the truth, betrayal like that leaves scars. The trust issues, the self-doubt, the way it makes you question your own judgment, those things don't disappear overnight. But I'm healing. Slowly, deliberately, with the help of good therapists and better friends. I love my work at the clinic, helping other people navigate their own trauma and recovery. There's something powerful about taking your pain and using it to help others find their way through theirs. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd confronted them privately instead of exposing everything in front of my family. The honest answer is no. They chose to humiliate me publicly, at the most important milestone of my life. They chose to involve my entire family in their deception. The truth doesn't always come wrapped in perfect revenge speeches. Sometimes it comes messy, painful, and through tears. But it still sets you free. And that's worth everything. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to share this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more incredible revenge stories coming your way. But I'm curious about your take. Do you think I handled the situation right, or would you have confronted them privately instead of exposing everything publicly? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts on these tough situations.